people assumed it was 7. So
Okay.
he may think it's 7. But shall we carry on?
Yes.
Okay. I'll bring the meeting to order. Public participation first, to receive questions and comments from members of the public in accordance with Standing Orders 3E and 3H. Questions are directed to council. Members of the public not to verbally abuse or harass a member of the council. I think we do have a member of the public, Mr. Allard.
Yes, that's correct. I will start shortly, but I believe that your colleague who's not with you may be confused by your own website where it says this meeting's at 7 o'clock, although it says 6 on the agenda. So, okay, thank you very much. I'm intrigued by the manner in which the council is currently operating. I have a few points to make. I have had an email from your clerk saying that since the last meeting held on the 7th of December, there have been no meetings apart from a working group. I'd like to understand, and I'd like you to explain where in your standing orders there is any reference to holding meetings via a working group, because I can see no such reference.
Chair, may I just ask, and excuse me, Mr. Allard, Locum Clerk, tonight's meeting, I understood that public participation would be only related to planning. So these, from my perspective, these would be inappropriate for this meeting.
Can I just ask when you intend to engage with the public? I'm asking you some pretty reasonable questions here.
I'd like to
actually, you think they can be expressed.
I'd like to back up Councillor Shelburne Barrow's comment. This is a planning meeting. It's only 55 minutes of it left. We do have 4 items. If there is something that's not related to planning, maybe Mr. Allard could wait till the next meeting or put the comment in writing.
I have already put some of these questions in writing and have yet to have a reply. It doesn't say anywhere on your agenda that public participation should be restricted to items on the agenda of the meeting, nor for that matter does it say that in your own standing orders. So I'm sorry, but I think you're making it up as you go along.
Well, I think it's implicit in that it is a planning committee meeting, that we wouldn't take comments or comments about things like, I don't know, open spaces or anything like that. So
there are many things that are implicit, such as having public participation, such as engaging with the public, but you seem to ride roughshod over those when you seem to see fit so to do. I fail to see why you don't want me to ask questions.
Do you have any questions related to planning?
No, I don't. They're all to do with your budgeting process, the way in which you hold meetings, and your AGAR, which seem perfectly reasonable and timely given the circumstances the town council finds itself in.
Well, I'd like to say that this is not the time, if you don't mind.
Well, I do mind.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate, but I think we will have to move on.
Well, I'm extremely disappointed and I shall make that known.
That is your right, certainly. Shall we move on? Okay. No, the councillor is unable to attend. I would imagine that is only Councillor Greening, unless anybody can note anybody else.
Councillor Ralph sent apologies, Councillor Thomas.
Lizzie did, that's true, and Lizzie Ralph as well. Councillor Ralph. Okay, declarations of interest. Members to declare any interest they may have in agenda items that accord with the requirements of the Council Code of Conduct. Is there anybody here? No? I would actually like to excuse myself from voting on item 4D, which relates to 2 South Street. The applicant is a neighbour and friend of mine and in the same line of work. And I don't want anyone to think that any decision that's made as a result of this is due to me voting or not voting for it. So I don't mind discussing it when it comes to discussion, but I will not be voting. If that's all right, Clerk, if you could make a note of that.
Yes, I have.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we now have item 1, or item 1A, 3A I should say. Is the McDonald's Restaurant Limited on Lawrence Hill. Installation of 2 rapid electric vehicle charging stations and associated use of 2 approved parking spaces as electric vehicle charging bays, car park of McDonald's, Wincanton. I haven't seen any comments about this. I don't know whether anybody else has a view. It doesn't seem like a particularly contentious thing to be applying for. Anybody? Councillor Vague? You're on mute.
Help me.
Oh,
Mr. Help. I think it's imminently sensible.
Yeah, I can't see, unless somebody else knows something. I don't think there's anything to say against it. Councillor Tudgay?
It seems to be the way of most of these types of outlets and how they have one or two bays, you know, for the electric charging. Lots of supermarkets have them. And as Councillor Vargas said, I think it's the way forward, you know. So on that grounds, I would like to propose that we recommend approval.
Okay, proposed by Councillor Tudgay. Anybody second? Councillor Power? And vote on 4, accepting the application. Okay, and voting against? Nobody. And are we recording abstentions? Clark, are you able to? Are we recording abstentions or not?
If people want me to record their abstentions, then I'll do so. Obviously, you've already said about on the 3D, so I would record that anyway. Did anybody? I don't think anybody did.
Councillor Smith, did you not vote?
Can you hear me? Yeah,
I didn't.
I'm not a voting member of the committee.
That's very true. I beg your pardon. Sorry, carry on. Yep. Okay. So that looks like it's passed then. Then move on to item 3B. 2-storey side extension following demolition of existing garage at Crofton, West Hill, Wincanton. It's the replacement of the front porch and roof, installation of air conditioning system. So it's essentially demolishing a garage to the side of the property, which is a detached property, and building a residential unit adjoining that detached property, to basically making it double fronted as it stands now, and with a continuous roof and air conditioning. There's only one comment, and it was a no objection, so it's neither for or against. I don't know whether anybody has any views, or I can see no issues with it myself, but do I have anyone proposing that? Councillor Power proposed. Any seconders? And Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow for seconding. Okay. And a vote for? And that's unanimous by the look of it. 6 out of 6. And now I'm happy to move on to 3C. This is the White Horse. There's a renovation and conversion of the former hotel for the High Street. This is if you've looked at the plans and the entry on Somerset planning page, it's incredibly complex. I mean, really, really complex. But it amounts to sort of 14 units, either single apartments or masonettes, and with a commercial frontage up ground floor. At the moment, there is no full or even pre-application I've seen for development at the back of the property, which is supposedly going to be 6 dwellings of varying sizes from what I see. My only view at the moment is something that I picked up on the planning site, which was something Pam Williams mentioned, which was there seems to be a lot of concentration on the historic building itself and the plans to restore it and make it habitable and usable as a commercial premises at vast expense, no doubt, but there's no indication that the rear of the property, where the 6 new dwellings will be in any way linked. And that sort of makes one think that it's possible that they may be developed separately, or say the dwellings get developed first and then maybe the attention is not to turn back onto the historic building at the front on the high street. And we may well be left with 6 dwellings at the back in the car park and still have the White Horse looking like it does now. What Perrin Williams was suggesting or was hoping was that it becomes more of an holistic application in that it combines everything in one go, or that there may be, say, some kind of condition placed on the development of the buildings, of the dwellings at the back. That would mean that before they are finished, work has to start on the White Horse or something like that, to basically so that they're not split, that the developers can't walk away having done the 6 dwellings and then decide that that's too much money to waste on the White Horse, let's just leave it and see what happens. Because then we'll be left with what we've got now. So that's just my view. But it is an incredibly complicated development in itself. But anyway, anybody, Councillor Power.
Do you think, for a good idea, do you think it'd be a good idea, so we're all on the same page, we asked to have a meeting with the applicant so we could, they can explain their side of the story, and then we get on the same page, and then we know what we're actually voting on?
Possibly. I mean, they've gone into incredible detail. If you look on the document,
I had a look through. Yeah, I had a look through.
I mean, it is incredibly detailed. They've obviously spent a lot of money, and they are obviously quite committed to it at this stage. I just think that I'm just worried that it's such a money pit, potentially, that it might eventually put someone off, especially if they've already maybe reaped their rewards by developing at the back. It's possible. We could have a think about it. What does anybody else think about that? Oh, sorry, Clark.
I was just going to say that the district council was originally asked for comments on this application by the 7th of January, but I did get an extension until the 12th. So I don't know if there would be enough time to have a site visit.
No, probably not. I don't. To be honest, I don't think a site visit will be that informative because it is so complicated. It's a building you really have got to get. I haven't got my head around it, but I don't think many people could do. But it is a bit of a nightmare. Councillor Tudgate.
I think we have to consider this application as it is. I know in the pre-app they wanted they talked about building on the car park, but at this point in time, this application is solely for the footprint of the existing building, and I think we should consider it as that.
As it is.
What perhaps we could do is put a covenant on, that the car park should not be built upon in the future, and make it known that if such an application was to come forward, that we would, strongly oppose it. I think we have to deal with this as it is. It is a very, as you say, it's a very complex building, and it would be good to see it back in use. I still tend to think it's a bit of an overdevelopment. I think it's too many units for the site, but as has been stated in the planning application by the highways department, if it was reinstated as a hotel, there would still be traffic in and out. So I don't think we can object on those grounds.
No.
The other thing I would like to see is a covenant put on the lower ground floor, commercial piece. Again, that should remain as, a commercial property and not be converted at a later date into a dwelling. So that's how I would proceed. I would like to see,
Do you have when you say a covenant sort of prohibiting building on the car park, do you mean until the main building is done, or at all?
Well, I would go full stop. I think to build on that car park in conjunction with the 14 units would be a massive overdevelopment.
I think I think personally that's probably what would scare a developer off. If they thought they couldn't build on the back, they might not do anything at all.
Well,
I guess,
I think sooner or later someone will restore the building because it's a lovely old building.
Yeah.
And, but there's no way that they can build on the car park. You know, we've already turned down the pizzeria thing, and we, you know, there was other attempts to build there, and they were going to build some grade 2 listed bungalows, and none of it's come to pass. And
It's
in
just so
conjunction
much.
with 14, I mean, that's when they were going to develop the front part of the building. It is something completely different, you know.
Yeah.
And there wasn't going to be that many units, and that's my concern. It's an overdevelopment to do both. You know, it's a lot of dwellings as it is, but to add in another 6 on the car park would be a big no for me. You know,
I think that,
Anybody else thinks?
yeah. Sorry, Councillor Bagg. Yes.
No, I think Councillor Waters had her hand
Oh,
up
beg your
as well
pardon,
when
sorry.
Ray had her
Sorry,
hand.
Linda.
It's just Ray has covered part of it, but with all these units and the people living there, where are people going to park anyway? It's going to be an absolute.
Well, it's almost certainly going to be at least 14 cars, isn't it? So,
Exactly. Yeah.
Councillor Bagg.
Plus the people that have already got apparently the right to park out there. But I think Ray and Linda were both with council when we had a visit to the building, and I can't, in all honesty, see how they could get anything larger than 14 rabbit hutches in there. It's not big enough for 14. Maybe 2 per floor. If they said 5 or 6, you could maybe understand it. 14's an enormous number. 28 cars plus the cars that already parked there. It's and the building is it was an absolute wreck.
Oh, it is. It's a basket.
When we saw it, and that's 2 or 3 years ago now. I mean, the ceiling beams don't join to the walls. It's a wonder the thing's still standing.
I think it's only the building next door that's holding it up. So it's very...
Probably. It
Councillor
would worry me
Small.
enormously.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I agree with Ray that the commercial element I fully support at the front of the building. That's really important for our high street. I also am concerned about the car park and protecting that car park. So if a covenant is the way forward, how we do that, I'd like to know. But yes, protecting the car park for not being built on and used as a car park would be the way forward. In terms of the building and 14 establishments, I don't know if we can say that we've got concerns about it, but is it our right, or do we
Really,
have
no.
any? It's their choice if they get planning for it because it meets accommodation requirements for building regs. Then if they're single people or 2 people establishments, and that's not, I suppose, although in our gift, but what I think what we're saying is we support the commercial. We've got concerns about car parking because most people have 1 or 2 cars, even in this day and age, although that may be reducing. And the fact that we want to protect the car park as a whole to remain as a car park, not to be built on. Is that what I've heard? Because if that is the case, then I'm happy to support. But it is on the basis that as long as it meets building regs, that's fine, and commercial downstairs, and we protect the car park. That's my view. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tippett.
I'm not sure on what grounds we could refuse, is my concern.
No, I agree.
You have to have good planning grounds to refuse, and I don't really see any, and we certainly want the building put back into use, you know. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So I think we should support the application as it stands, but like I say, we should, you know, try and put pressure to bear that no other work is done there, no other buildings.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. We can't stand in the way, particularly if they overdevelop and they make very, very small apartments, all 14 of them, and people want to buy them, then there's nothing much anyone else can do about it. But I think the commercial aspect on the ground floor must be secure, because in the same way that Redfern's was turned down. I think, especially as a prominent grade 2 star, and it's right in the middle of the high street. I shouldn't think there's any danger of it ever going into residential mode, if you like. But yes, and then I guess we just wait and see if and when an application comes through for development in a car park. And I guess we deal with that on a separate occasion, and see if in any way they are linked. So we are in effect approving this. Is that the general feeling I've got?
But Cam, are we in our rights, Locum Clark, to state something about protecting the car park?
Yeah, I mean, if you generally support the application, you could say something like you recommend approval of the application, but would request that conditions are added, perhaps in the form of a Section 106 agreement, to say that the front ground floor of the building remains in commercial use, and that the car park at the rear isn't built upon. You can support it with caveats if you want to.
If the red line on the application only doesn't include the car park, are we able still to comment upon that?
Yeah, I mean, now's your opportunity to do that. As you say, it doesn't. If the car park isn't within the curtilage, then obviously that's not part of this planning application. But it's relevant to take note of things that are right next door, or even in the same street or whatever. Especially for parking. I mean, parking is bad anyway, isn't it? Sometimes in the high street.
Okay, all righty. Councillor Vagg?
Very important point. I think we need to be careful. If we talk about the first thing being started, this happens so much with development land where they have so long in which to start building, and they'll build a gateway and a bit of road in and then leave it fallow for 5 years. So I don't know how we can put it, but don't let them fudge it.
No, I think the district council has what's the power they have on that? They can force a developer to either continue or start. Isn't there some?
To start work on an application that they've before.
Yeah, or that they've started and haven't continued with.
Well, I don't know about once they've started, but once you've got planning permission, there's a standard condition which says you have to begin work within 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Isn't enough.
Okay. So we effectively we're approving this from a town council point of view, but we are saying we would like the car park to remain undeveloped, and for the commercial aspect of the ground floor frontage to remain commercial. And they're the two conditions that we'd like to be taken note of. Is that correct? Is there anything else I've missed?
No, the only other thing
Okay,
Dr. Councillor Vagg, the only thing I would say is wherever possible, could they consider green energy sources? So we're encouraging that sort of wherever possible, solar panels or whatever they're doing, can they consider green energy?
Yeah. Put that in.
15 apartments or whatever you call them. That's a lot of housing.
It is. Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Vagg.
As you say, it's got to be a commercial decision, and they can build very small units and sell them. But can we at least express concern about the number of units? I think it's, if you count it, 4 on the second floor, 4 on the first floor, and 2 at the back on the ground floor. If you're keeping commercial rooms, I would think the absolute maximum would be 10. It's not that huge.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I imagine they will be small, but I
don't think we can say anything.
No, I don't know.
Clark, can we say anything?
Yeah, I mean, if you think that 14 units, if you all agree that 14 units is too many, then you can say something like you recommend approval of the application, but feel that 14 units is too dense and there should be 10 or fewer. If that's what you agree.
I personally couldn't say whether that's too many or not, because I really don't know the inside of the building well enough. It would be wrong of me to say that's too many. It sounds a lot.
Ray.
But
what do you reckon, Ray? You've seen it. And Linda?
Well, yes, but you can't. These dwellings will be of a certain size because they have to be of a certain size to accommodate the people and the facilities, the kitchens, etc., etc. So I don't really see how we can force a developer to build units of a certain size.
No,
I'm slightly concerned if we turn this down in any way, shape or form, we're left with the possibility of the White Horse being
a white elephant.
a very big white elephant, yes, for a little bit longer. You know, it's been like it now for, well, I forget how many years, but, you know, a considerable number of years. And it's a prominent place within the town. And it really should be brought back into use.
Yeah, I mean, it gets more and more expensive to restore as the years go on. I mean, that's
any delay will only add to the cost. Yes,
yeah.
Quite agree, Ian. I'm going to bite the bullet and propose that we accept recommend approval with the caveats in place. You know, whether it be via S106s or whatever. That, you know, the commercial downstairs, as I've said, front stays commercial and the car park remains as a car park and not be built on in the future. And I'm going to propose that.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Shovel-Barrow, great. And do I have a vote on accepting this application with the caveats that Councillor Tedgay has mentioned? Okay, that's 6. Okay. Right, final application is the 2 South Street, former Red Ferns restaurant, alterations and the change of use of ground floor from restaurant to restaurant and takeaway facility with staff accommodation and the installation of 2 new windows and extraction equipment to the rear. There have been 3 comments and all of them negative, and they've come from the residents, 3 people resident above the commercial floor. Their main issues are noise levels. There seems to be no reference to the noise levels that the extraction equipment will generate, and they want assurances that this is not going to be excessively noisy, that they will be able to, you know, sleep, etc., etc. Traffic, which I think is a lot of people's concerns about that, in terms of there are already 2 takeaways on that street very close to each other. There's no parking, although people do park and stop on the double yellows on the bend, etc. The opening hours, which are, well, extensive compared to how Red Ferns used to be, but, you know, it is a commercial premises. That's how it ends up being. Is that's just a risk I think people have to take, I'm afraid. But and find the other last one, which was the moving of the kitchen, which was at the back of the building on one level, to the front of the building with bedrooms above. And one of the residents has voiced concern that this might be a safety issue. I don't know whether, I mean, normally in a commercial building with residential upstairs above that, you would have to have fire precautions anyway, as far as I remember. I certainly did in properties I've had. You would have to have building control past that anyway. So I don't know whether there already is facility for, I don't know, an hour fire break between the 2 floors or not, I don't know. But they're the 3 complaints. There are no positive comments from anybody else. As I said at the start of the meeting, I'm going to not vote on this, and I'll probably just chair this discussion if that's all right with everybody else. Okay. Councillor Walters.
When this came before us before and it was going to be turned into residential, we said no because we wanted it to remain as a commercial premises. So what do we do now?
It is a commercial premises.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a commercial premises. I mean, that's, you know, but the whole, this, familiar with the agent of change thing. If you create an issue with a building as a purchaser or an occupier, then you have to fix that change. If the extractor turns out to be an issue, then I think that has to be sorted by the owner and the proprietor, if that indeed becomes an issue. But it is a commercial property with residential above. And as far as it was Redferns when I moved here, it was only 5 years ago, but I don't know what it was before then. Does anybody know? It's always been commercial.
Yeah.
So it's always been a commercial building. So. And the last building is similar to, the last business is similar to the one that's about to move into it. Anyway, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett.
Thank you. From my perspective, I'm pleased that it's remained commercial. I think that's really important for our high street and for our town. My concerns are, I'm not sure, we need to note our residents' concerns, even though they put it onto the website. I believe we need to note that as well. In addition, what my biggest concern is not what they're doing inside in terms of moving kitchens about, because that's a business choice of theirs. And if it meets all the business or the planning regs to do so, including fire breaks and everything else, then that's the decision that the right people, the right professionals will make in terms of managing noise and disruption. Excuse me. My concern, I think, is about the staffing accommodation that's being proposed. For me, that is a concern because of what that might lead to the future. So in terms of it remaining commercial, that's great. I don't think we have any influence on what it becomes as long as it remains commercial at this stage, unless the local clerk's going to say anything different. But my concern is noting our residents' concerns, and I am not supportive of residential accommodation for staff on site on the ground floor. That's my only comment at this stage. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Power.
The only comment, the objection I've got to it, in my opinion, is the car parking outside the front. Because you've also got the kebab shop, then you've got the Chinese and the Nog are doing takeaways at the moment. So it will all be just compiling on the high street. That's the only problem I can't get my head around with, is the car parking, because I don't know where else people can park, apart from down in the community church or the Catholic church car park. That'd be the only place to park. But other than that, you can't really park on the road with the double yellows.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Tudgate.
Well, I share Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow's concerns about the staffing quarters. I certainly don't see the need for a 2-bed accommodation for staffing. And in my opinion, if we were to allow this, we would have to make sure that there was a tie such that the staffing accommodation was tied to the business and not be used for any other purposes. That would be my view. I mean, does anybody know why they want staff on site?
I think they live above the actual shop that they're in now, don't they?
Certainly the proprietor does, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else, but it might be an economics thing. It might just be a very cheap way. I don't know. You don't know. It sounds like a financial decision to me, but I couldn't say.
Again, we're in a difficult position because we fought hard and rejected a previous application to have it turned into dwellings. So really, we're you know, I think again we should approve it, but again we should make sure that the living accommodation is tied to the business and the business only. That would be my view.
Councillor Vag. Councillor Vag. Hello, Councillor Vag.
Sorry, maybe I didn't read this properly.
Oh, you're frozen. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe I didn't. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Sorry. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Sorry, I may have missed a point. Who is looking to take it over?
It's
You seem to be indicating you knew.
I do. He's the chap who runs Pizza Palace. next door to us.
Oh, are they moving from there or putting something else in?
I've no idea.
You don't know.
I don't know. No.
Okay. I can't see how they can get staff accommodation in there as well as a kitchen and storage. And I'm a little bit worried that they might put it as commercial premises with the residential behind. They could just run it down and then ask for the front bit to be residential as well. I'm feeling cynical tonight, sorry.
Yeah. I think we'd established not so long ago that the high street was fairly safe from being turned into a line of residential shops, residential premises rather.
Hope so.
When I think, isn't that not fairly enshrined now, or is that not the case?
No, it's not enshrined as such. That's why we're having discussions about strengthening that aspect.
Yeah.
But still, I think the point that Councillor Vag has made is relevant. But at the end of the day, I think it remaining commercial is a positive thing. Car parking is an issue, but people can walk and park, or park and walk. Sorry, they can't really do it the other way around so easily. And I do think I agree with Councillor Tudgay. We need to tie the accommodation to the commercial enterprise so that it can't be seen as individual to the actual commercial enterprise, whatever that might be, whatever it is. That's not really in our gift as long as it's commercial.
Right. Okay. Anybody else? So in short, we're saying that the accommodation should always be tied to the commercial operation, always. And that, is there anything we can say about parking, traffic, anything like that? I don't suppose there is. I mean, you're either parking in the wrong place or you're not really. So I didn't as much to say about that. I think, okay, so what we're saying is, I'm not voting, but what you're saying is that in principle you do approve it, but with the condition that the accommodation remains permanently and forever tied to the commercial aspect of the building.
Yes.
Okay. So anybody got any more comments, and does anybody want to propose? Or Councillor Power?
I'll propose it.
Any seconders anywhere? Councillor Walters seconds. And a vote for accepting the application with that caveat. That's 5. Okay. And that's it. No more. Okay. Jolly good. All right. Well, unless anybody has got anything else? No.
The next meeting is Monday the 8th, isn't it?
Monday the 8th, yes. Is that also 6 o'clock, Clark? Or
no, we can go back to the normal time then. We only had to bring it forward.
Okay. So that's at 1900. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty.
Can I just ask a question? Sorry, Chair and Local Clerk, but on our agenda it says this meeting was going to be live streamed. So is it being live streamed and I just can't see it?
No, I probably failed to do that, I expect, but I can upload it afterwards.
Oh, thank you very much.
Is everyone okay with that? Because I don't think we said anything in this meeting we wouldn't want in the public domain.
No,
that
no.
would be the purpose of this planning meeting, is that the members of the broader residents attend the meeting in relation to each one of the applications.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Take
Thank you.
care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Minutes.
Minutes.